It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we start a Wednesday. Gary, how are you?
Busy.
Yeah. Another crazy day.
I know.
Crazy.
You notice a pattern, though? There was a pattern yesterday that I noticed when you see, for example, the Stormy Daniels testimony, where the judge allowed it, and he allowed the salacious stuff in there. Mm-hmm. He's the one that allowed it, and then he criticized the defense. Basically, I can't believe that the defense, didn't object consistently to this. They did.
They did.
They tried to get a mistrial.
Yeah.
And the judge came back and questioned the salacious material that he allowed to happen in his own court.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow. Then Biden yesterday gives a speech on the Holocaust and anti-Semitism and says all the right things as he is doing everything possible. Well, I don't know if he's doing everything possible, but he's doing a ton of things that makes Iran and Iran's proxies stronger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Republicans come out. We'll have some audio on that coming up here in a little bit, where they address the whole thing on weapons, and the administration won't be clear on that.
Yeah,
they won't be clear. They just, we're not going to say that that's happening or not happening. They won't answer any questions. Then he comes out with this strong anti-Semitism statement, and whether it's us or I was Michael Goodwin from the New York Post, the Wall Street Journal also came out in their editorial page saying, nice words, but you're not backing it up with your actions. Mm-hmm. It's like always, they can't tell the American public the truth. They take both sides of a particular issue, hoping that the idiots out there, that's what they're hoping, because they believe that the people that vote for them are idiots. Yeah. Democrats believe that people that vote for them are complete, total morons. That's what they think.
Right.
And so we can try to sell two sides of a story, and they'll buy it. They'll hear what they want.
Yeah.
They'll hear what they want and ignore the other part of what's going on, and we're going to be okay. And the judge is doing the exact same thing. That testimony yesterday should all be stricken.
Yep.
Got nothing to do. Everything. The trial shouldn't be going on.
Yeah, there no law has been broken, but if you were even if you were to stretch that out, it had nothing to do with what's even being alleged.
Well, it's funny because they reiterated again yesterday, both Jonathan Turley and Andrew McCarthy, who, if you want to look for credible sources looking at this, because they're not Trump fans.
No, they're not.
They're not Trump fans at all. But they're looking at the actual law here. And as they both said yesterday, again, they said, well, can he appeal because of what happens with Stormy Daniels? They go, well, he can appeal with a ton of stuff. The judge has already told the jury that Trump committed federal election law violations. Mm-hmm. And he goes, there's no evidence of that.
Right.
And the judge has already said it.
Right. Yeah, this entire thing, and then, the judge reprimanding, essentially, Trump through his defense team for cursing audibly in court. We've talked about how, with everything thrown at him, he's barely flinched. And I'll tell you right now, that's what the judge is trying to do. They're trying to get a reaction out of him so they can find him in contempt of court. Put this a gag order on him, allow all this testimony, do everything they can do to get a rise out of him. They're poking him, trying to get a rise out of him so they can hold him in contempt of court.
You saw what he did yesterday. He came on and was reading CNN and MSNBC headlines, like stories that were critical of what was going on.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm just like, let me read this from CNN. I didn't say it.
Yeah,
CNN said it.
It's a quote from CNN.
Right. Well, yesterday I thought this throughout. In my mind, I picture this judge, because this judge should be out of office.
Yeah.
Because would you want to go before this judge
No.
in the future?
No.
Does
No.
anybody trust this judge based on what's happened now?
No.
But I thought to myself, this is like one of the old Law and Orders when you had a judge that was, you could see it was a rogue judge.
Yeah.
And you'd be sitting there and it would be, what's his name, Sam Waterston,
Yeah.
who'd be going crazy. And then they go, you're in contempt.
Yeah. Right.
And then Adam Schiff would go to whatever exotic club all these judges hang out at.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know what the club is that they all hang out with, but by the way, when we say Adam Schiff, we don't mean the California
Not the real
congressman.
Adam Schiff.
Yeah, not the real. We're talking about
The
the
more
fake.
reasonable fake Adam Schiff.
Yeah. the Adam Schiff that abides by the law.
The Adam Schiff who knows the law and applies it as such and is capable of critical thinking.
Right,
You
who
know,
is-
the fake one.
Right, exactly. The one who is a fictional character. And so they sit there, and of course, they're both drinking hard liquor.
Yeah, of course.
As
I mean,
as-
it is 9 a.m. So,
as Adam Schiff tells whatever the chief judge of whoever it is
yeah.
that, this guy's a rogue judge. It's like,
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, is that happening in real life? But you look at this happening. It is such a travesty of justice. There was a. We'll get to it. I was going to. Did I bring it up yesterday? I can't remember. Maybe I didn't. They poll out there of Americans that believe we're going to be in a civil war.
Yeah, I think we touched on it. We didn't really dive deep into it.
And I'll get into it because it's really interesting because I don't think we're headed to a civil war. Where I think we're headed to massive protest. I think that's going to happen. If Trump is elected, you're going to see violence on the streets.
Yeah.
That's just going to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I wish it wouldn't happen, but it
well,
would.
you
Just
might see it if Biden is elected. I mean, right now, the way it's going, the radicals don't want Biden to be president. You can't win with the current radicals. So, but if Trump wins, yeah, I think it has a much greater chance of being even more escalated.
I think 2 points. What you're going to see is reality's hitting. Reality is the biggest enemy of liberalism today.
Yeah, it is.
And so that you will see. But I understand why you have more people saying it these days is because when you have rogue prosecutors and rogue judges, when you have a Department of Justice, for example, what came out yesterday, we know that the classified documents trial now has been moved back. I don't think we'll see that before the election. Part of the reason is, the things that said top secret and all that, those were staged. They was put in there.
Yeah.
The evidence has come out that has, when looking at that, and plus they rearranged the order and everything else. They moved those things around, and the judge is saying, okay, we need to hear all of this. And so this moves the trial date. It's not determined yet, and they're going all the way to August.
Right.
I think the one time for a dismissal, and again, these are just emotions now.
Right.
It already takes it to the last day of the RNC.
Yeah.
And so there wouldn't be, and then they would have to issue a trial. Is she going to say a trial starts in October or September? I don't think so.
I would heavily doubt that.
And so
and we wondered, by the way, with the nature of the documents, how in the world do you go through every single document and who goes through them? Who has the authority to go through them? How do you do that? And then how do you present that as evidence? What process is there to take those documents, and then if you present them as evidence, then you're going to have to present them to people who don't have the authority, clearly, to see them.
Right, but that's not the discussion going on. The discussion going on is that the prosecutors manipulated the actual evidence. That's what the judge is looking at.
Right, but part of the concern is the fact that the nature of those documents is top secret. At least in two of the stories I read within the last 2 hours. So maybe it's a different concern that was issued. I don't know.
Okay, we're probably looking at two different stories.
Right, could be.
Yeah, because I was focusing on the story of the actual. All right, so you stage this, you put those top secret things in there in order to make a political statement. You took like the folders that said top secret. They weren't there. They brought them with them and put them in, and then they rearranged. And I don't know the specifics of it, but this is what's going to be heard in over the next couple of months. And the accusation is, and I mentioned it the other day, that Julie Kelly, I believe it is, from Real Clear Politics, has been following this and said, because of what they've done, you don't know how far they went to politicize this. How did they move the documents? Did they bring documents with them? Did they remove some what did they actually do in this? Mm-hmm. But none of it's good because as you see, everything, there isn't one single thing. I mean, Trump, it's a New York jury. They may find him guilty, but nothing is going in favor of not being overturned by a higher court.
Right.
On
everything points to a very clear victory.
Right.
And
everything. Everything looks like rot. We know that the Georgia election, or the Georgia election, the Georgia prosecution. I mean, that's just a cluster all over the place, as we know. Mm-hmm. This one is obviously a cluster. Legal experts looking at this going, this was just the prosecutors wanting to punish Trump. That was one of the things that was talked about yesterday. Just bring in the salacious details that have nothing to do with the case.
Well, no, I mean, it yesterday had me feeling like this was the entire point of both prosecution and the judge, is to get her on the stand and tell her story, which had nothing to do with even the allegations.
Right. Now,
it doesn't even apply.
Now, I don't think it moves the needle at all.
No, I don't think it does.
I don't think it moves the needle at all. But
because if you haven't priced this in right now, then I don't know. You're one of the voters that, I don't know, spins a wheel on Election Day. And wherever it lands, that's how you vote. If you haven't priced this in already, then you're probably not somebody who's active in voting in terms of the effects on the election.
And so the judge is trying to act stupid. That's what he's trying to act like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Excuse me?
Well,
what are you talking about? It's Stormy Daniels.
You knew exactly what it was all about.
Right.
That was the nature of the entire thing.
Right. And as it was brought up before, all she can bring that of evidence is that, yes, I had a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
Then that's it.
And when the judge called his lawyers up and said, he's audibly cursing, and I'm telling you this here so I don't have to say it in front of everyone, because I don't want to embarrass your client. The judge actually said he doesn't want to embarrass Trump. Are you joking?
Yeah. But he's playing stupid. He's allowing evidence in the court that has nothing to do with the crime, with the alleged crime, which is not a crime.
Right.
And just so it can be salacious, and then he comes back, I can't believe we allowed this salacious stuff in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and I can't believe the defense. What do you mean the defense went for a mistrial? What do you mean they're not objecting to it?
Right.
I mean, it's as if he's playing stupid, but he's trying to play both sides of it, just like Biden did yesterday with his whole anti-Semitism speech and the Holocaust and all this, while he enabled the funding of Iran and therefore its terrorist proxies to attack United States interest and Israel.
Yeah.
And they won't say, well, we're not going to acknowledge or deny that we're sending Israel fewer weapons.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about? You can't have it both ways.
And everybody sees what's going on. And Biden almost acting, he hasn't said it out loud yet, but you said it. It's almost like the whole border thing. Well, I don't have any control to stop Iran from where they send their money and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
This whole thing is stupid. We need to grab this thing now by the scruff as a nation and end this madness. It needs to be done. If we don't do this election cycle, we'll never do it. If we don't get on top of this kind of idiotic running of our nation and protection and providing for terrorists and extremists, if we don't do that now, it's over. We'll never, ever get on top of it.
So we got a ton of audio to play. We got a great show ahead. Gasoline prices expected to go up over the summer. That was out there. I just love this one. James Freeman, Wall Street Journal, because we talked about this yesterday. No one said reforming the New York Times would be easy. editor rejects the idea of pro-Biden coverage, but can't resist praising failed policies of Biden.
Right.
My God.
Yeah, they always try and have it both ways.
And
we're not out here to be his campaign. Well, yeah, you are.
And then the story of Gavin Newsom yesterday saying, right, people love California, record levels, record money being spent. And the analysis was done on it and said very quickly, because it came out the day after, saying, no, actually spending is down if you take inflation into account. The number of people that
if you adjust for inflation,
the trips and everything else are fewer.
Right.
So you're just talking about the money, but actually down 14%.
Yeah.
And it's just like, can the left tell the truth about anything that they stand for? Can they ever tell the truth?
No. Not when reality is right there in their face, hitting Americans every single day. That's where they lose every single time.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. When it comes to truck maintenance, sometimes it's the little things that can cause the most trouble, like cabin air filters. When properly serviced, cabin air filters provide a barrier between pollutants and harmful particles outside and your HVAC system. If you don't pay attention to them, however, this small part can turn into big trouble in no time. Breathe easy when you know which warning signs could indicate that your cabin air filters are clogged. A dirty, musty smell throughout the entire cab may indicate your cabin air filters are oversaturated and need to be replaced.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, if I can say my own name.
No.
Well, I did chug a beer from the refrigerator earlier.
Yeah, good.
I'm kidding. All right, here's Jonathan Turley yesterday on Fox News on the judge in the Trump trial. Here we go.
You know, the statement of the judge that he's surprised there isn't a higher number of objections from the defense is baffling. The defense objected to putting her on the stand. They then objected to the scope of the questioning. And now the judge sounds like Claude Rains saying, I'm shocked. There's a porn star in my courtroom. Well, you know, if you give a lot of scope to testimony, what did you expect? And the problem with what the judge has done here is that this is an entirely unnecessary witness. It is uncontested that there's an NDA. Whether what happened in their relationship, if there was one, is immaterial to how those payments were denoted by the Trump campaign. So the court had the opportunity repeatedly to say, we're not going to take this courtroom through details of this relationship. If you want to establish that a relationship occurred, do so, establish the dates. But likely those facts could have been stipulated to. So the prosecutors wanted to get salacious details out. And this is a form of punishment. They're trying to use a witness for punitive purposes and, in my view, political purposes. And this is what happens. And it happened because the judge lost control of his courtroom.
Yeah.
We'll have more from Turley coming up, but really amazing. I mean, you look at this, and I go back to the survey on that we'll bring up later on about Americans believing, you know, how many Americans believe we're heading to a civil war. Well, we're not, but the fact is, I understand why people think that, because when you see the system crumbling, when you see the institutions of government working against and acting like a banana republic, what else can you expect American citizens to think?
Right.
We'll get to that and more on the way here.
866-90-RED-EYE. Now's your chance to be the caller. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Getting back to Jonathan Turley on the Trump trial yesterday. Turley talking on Fox News. It was asked the question about once a jury hears something, even if the judge wishes to strike it, they've already heard it.
Oh, that's right. It's like the old Far Side cartoon where the judge is saying the jury will ignore what was just said, and the jury is there with shocked faces. It is. You really can't have this cat walk backwards. The judge knows that. The prosecutors know that. But what the prosecutors are arguing here is completely ridiculous. I mean, he also paid money to kill a story of a doorman that was completely untrue. Does the jury have to know the details of that story? The point is that various stories were killed because they didn't want to get them out. The question is, what was the intent in how they noted these payments as a legal expense? This is on an entirely different continent when it comes to materiality to the charges. And the judge seems to have wanted her on the stand because the judge could easily have said, I don't get it. Or he could have said, you're going to have the fastest witness in history. You're going to establish the base facts, the base dates, and then we're going to bid adieu to Stormy Daniels.
But so once Judge Merchan decided to allow her into the courtroom as a witness, could he have done more to put guardrails in place?
He
or does he not
certainly
really
could.
have, he could, okay.
Because the thing is, he came back later and he said, when I'm concerned about how far this is going, and it was really sort of like on the Titanic side, I'm a little concerned about navigation when people are heading for the lifeboats. It's a little bit late if the judge was concerned. This was clearly going to happen. This is why the defense team objected. This is why the prosecutors had to argue that they needed the broader scope. The prosecutors literally stood up and said, we're going to not, I assure you, Judge, we're not going to get into genitalia. I mean, is that really the standard that the judge left with the prosecutors? Because it appears to be so. And now the judge is saying, gosh, I wish you guys had objected more.
Yeah. So, we were talking to Andy McCarthy about this. There may be grounds for appeal here, and it's similar. Obviously, the cases are completely different. But it's similar to what happened in the Harvey Weinstein case, that a lot of witnesses who were let in who were not material to the case, but they were character witnesses who impugned Harvey Weinstein's character. But the judge said this stuff was prejudicial, got to kick it out. And by the way, I'm overturning the case. So Trump may be able to overturn this on appeal. But as Andy pointed out, he may get convicted in the meantime. Joe Biden gets to bash him all the way until November for being a convicted felon. And then he gets the charges or the conviction overturned 2 years from now.
I actually think there may be reversible error on a number of fronts. It's going to be hard to correct that. The judge could try to correct some of this in his instructions, but at this point, it would be very hard to do it. For example, the judge has allowed this jury to hear over and over again that there were election violations at the base of this case, suggesting that Trump committed election violations. There's no evidence of that.
As we have stated over and over again. Yeah. And so if the judge allows things that aren't true in there, well, of course he's going to let Stormy Daniels go and then try to walk it back later. Oh, okay, I didn't know it was going to go here if you brought the porn star in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's bizarre, and it's trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do, maybe win favor over. It was so blatant that you just try and walk it back for the sake of saving yourself the embarrassment in front of the jury?
Andrew McCarthy, Merchant scolds prosecutors for doing what he let them do. For nothing more than the purpose of humiliating the Democrats' political nemesis and their opponent in the 2024 presidential election, Manhattan's elected progressive Democrat District Attorney Alvin Bragg has proffered Stormy Daniels' sensational story of a sexual encounter with Donald Trump in an unprecedented media-saturated first-ever trial against a former U.S. president. Trump lawyers objected to the testimony, which, as I previously contended, here, and here, and then he highlights where you could go look at that, is not relevant to the business records falsification charges in the case. It's not even relating to the charge, and the charge is bogus.
Right.
In particular, Team Trump's objected over and over again to graphic details of a sexual encounter that Daniels claimed she had with Trump in 2006. As we've come to expect, Judge Merchant overruled Trump's counsel. And then he comes back afterwards and says, why didn't you object more strenuously? I mean, this is just, and again, this is pure liberalism. We're going to play both sides of it, but the whole purpose is to railroad the guy that we're going after who's in the opposition party.
And then scold him for not trying harder.
But then, quite remarkably, after allowing the jury to hear the salacious testimony, a minute-by-minute account, Merchant then had the jury leave the courtroom and then proceeded to dress down the prosecutors for doing what he allowed them to do.
Right.
Wow. On this point, New York's governing test is set out in Rule 4.06, exclusion of relevant evidence, which instructs a judge to forbid the introduction of evidence if its value is merely outweighed by the danger that it would create undue prejudice to a party or confuse the issues and mislead the jury. This is where Andrew McCarthy gets into actually New York law.
Right.
New York's rule, at least if it is applied as written, is more favorable to criminal defendants than is the federal law, Rule 403, which directs the evidence be precluded only if such dangers as unfair prejudice and jury confusion substantially outweigh the value of the testimony. It could not be more obvious that Daniels' testimony had negligible value, but is immensely prejudicial. It invites the jury to convict Trump because he's a rogue, and it sows confusion regarding such legal questions as what is meant by falsifying records. That is, a jury may figure that if Trump is lying when he denies a sexual encounter, then the business records must be false, even though the business records relate to Trump's reimbursement of Michael Cohen for $130,000 paid to Daniels, not whether Trump had sex with Daniels. Jeez. Oh, my God.
This is how far they're willing to go. This is how far they're willing to go. They don't care about due process. They don't care about the law. They'll make up law out of thin air to take a political opponent down. My gosh. The average person has not a chance in hell if they come at you.
Would you want to sit before this judge?
No.
Well, and the thing, too, when we talk about, as we talked about the gag order on Trump, I mean, what he fined him for was just general things of saying, I can't get a fair trial here.
Right.
He wasn't even attacking a witness, but the witnesses are allowed to attack him. And it seems like New York, I won't say New York, but I will say this judge has everything posterior backwards. The presumption of innocence goes to the person who you're attempting to prosecute. Mm-hmm. And it seems like all the deference is going to the prosecution.
And they're building more. They're building more along the way.
Yeah.
The judge is helping prosecution build this fake road to nowhere. That's exactly what he's doing. This goes beyond making a mockery of the system, of the court. This is reprehensible, and the judge should be punished, should never sit on a bench again. And we've talked about Bragg repeatedly, how that guy holds office is beyond us.
Well, because he was elected. That's
Yep.
what the people of New York want. The people of New York want a rogue prosecutor.
You want a radical, you get a radical.
Yeah, remember, we can't forget when he first went into office how radical he is.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, it was Alvin Bragg who said, we are not going to prosecute people who commit armed robberies armed with a gun and charge them with a felony unless they actually pull the trigger.
Right.
So if they walk in and say to you, I'm going to kill you if you don't give me the money, Bragg did not want to charge those people, those criminals, with a felony. Only if they pull the trigger.
Now, be careful if you're a Republican in New York and your child makes a finger motion like a gun, because your child could spend life in prison under Bragg's thinking.
Well, but I mean, but just people need to understand how radical he is. Now, there was an outcry when he said that, and he had to back off on it, but that's what he would do if he thought the people were behind him.
Mm-hmm.
He would let people who use guns in commission of a crime not face a felony, and then these same liberals are the ones that go after legal gun owners and state, well, we've got so much crime in this city that we need to restrict the ability of good citizens to own firearms. Yet we're going to be blunt in telling the entire city we are not going to prosecute criminals who use a gun in the commission of a crime.
Right.
We are not going to charge them with a felony. It'll be a misdemeanor. Are you kidding me?
Well, the illegals who beat the cops.
Yeah.
Bragg was the one that let them go without bail.
Yep.
Right back into your city, New York. Do you need any more evidence of how radical the left has become and how they will use everything available to them to bring down their political opponents? They will shut you down at every turn, and if there's nothing there, they'll make it up.
As they're doing here.
Yep.
And then the judge will let in statements from the prosecution where they state that the president committed a crime that isn't a crime.
Isn't a crime.
It's amazing.
Her testimony had nothing to do with even the allegations, which aren't a crime.
Right. The allegations of she's sitting on the stand giving salacious details of something that isn't a crime.
Right.
It's not a crime.
It's not a crime. You can judge it however you. Today, all day long, I just thought to myself, this was one of their main goals. It may not have been the goal. The goal is to keep him in courtroom and have him do the proverbial perp walk every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. Remember, Bragg said he could need 3 more weeks to get this thing done. But one of the goals has to be, well, we'll put her up there to testify, have her tell her story. They want that ringing in the media. It's funny because I'm reading comments everywhere on posts, on stories about this, and even liberals are looking at this going, I despise Trump, but this goes way beyond the law. That if I were on that jury, I wouldn't even be close to a guilty vote.
Well, remember the two main people that are actually looking at the legal issues here.
Mm-hmm.
As we have stated over and over again, Turley and McCarthy will not vote for Trump.
No. McCarthy's written about things that are, he's not pro-Trump.
No.
But he spells out things very clearly as to what's wrong in these cases.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. More on the Trump New York case. More on the judge in the classified documents case. Well, let's put it this way. Extending when that trial may happen indefinitely.
Indefinitely. I mean, it's... Look, if you get to a point where they think they could start this up in October, as you asked earlier, are you going to do that? You're going to do that weeks before a major election? You want to be that judge? And I suspect no. I suspect if this goes beyond the convention, I suspect that it won't happen until after the election.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
This morning, man, we got so much to cover today. You and I in our pre-show meeting, it was just like, oh, this is too much. So let's get right to it. And I do want to go just one more thing here on the whole Trump trial in New York, and this was from PJ Media and Matt Margolis. Bragg's case against Trump is imploding fast, and it was Biden administration. Official Michael Colangelo is leading to say that Trump was involved in federal election law violations. Jonathan Turley said that jury now has been told repeatedly that there are federal election crimes here, strongly suggesting that the payment to Stormy Daniels did violate federal election laws. Turley has said that's just not true. But even if the actual allegations against Trump are falling apart, Keith Davidson, the lawyer representing adult film actress Stormy Daniels, testified that the $130,000 payment to Daniels should not be construed as hush money, but rather as a legitimate consideration payment. Davidson also testified that Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, was despondent when he didn't get a White House job after Trump won the presidency in 2016. Then there was a testimony of former Trump aide Hope Hicks. Many in the media tried to paint her testimony as damning for Trump, but even she undermined the allegations against him. Many in the media tried to paint the testimony as damning for Trump. They didn't succeed if they did. I saw more the opposite. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett called Hicks' testimony an epic miscalculation by the prosecution. The moment cross-examination began, their misbegotten case against the former president began to collapse, he explained. Hicks, who served as a press secretary during the 2016 presidential campaign, explained that Trump's motive for suppressing salacious stories was to protect his wife, Melania. But the point is, we go through this, and the whole thing is it doesn't matter. They keep talking about evidence, and I'm not blaming Matt here in his column. I'm just saying that's what frustrates me, is none of this is illegal.
Right. No, I mean, it's just like the dossier thing. Let's bring out some things here, and with the dossier, it turned out to be all false. It was made up. In this case, well, let's bring her up to testify. The judge knew exactly what he was allowing in his courtroom. Then to try and walk about afterward, well, I didn't know it was going to be like that, is ridiculous. And it had nothing to do with the charges. And the charges have nothing to do with the law.
Between Merchant's mistakes and the testimony that has completely destroyed Bragg's case, the jury should easily decide in Trump's favor. Of course, this is no ordinary trial. The partisan prosecutor, the partisan judge, and the partisan jury all stack the deck heavily against Trump here, and it's hard to say whether the jury will be objective enough to acknowledge that Bragg's case has imploded. In a way, I tell you, sometimes I look at this and I go, "This is like dreaming. This isn't happening in the United States." You shake your head when you look at all this.
No, it's funny because yesterday I was thinking to myself, it really feels like I've been watching like a really weird series on Netflix or something. I remember years ago, House of Cards, when people were still watching it before the whole Kevin Spacey fallout thing. I remember my oldest daughter asked me, "Hey, Dad, you watching House of Cards?" I said, "Yeah, I am. But I don't know. It's a little over the top." Oh my gosh, this makes House of Cards look tame. This kind of I don't even know how you describe it anymore, other than weaponizing the justice system over and over again against one political opponent. And, of course, that means they're willing to go after anybody. We already know the stories of the FBI agents being sent to parking lots and to take down the license plate numbers of parents who were in those parking lots to issue a concern at a school board meeting. How far do you let this go? If you're on the left, how far do you let this go? Are you okay with this? Are you okay with the other side doing this? I'm not. Not at all. Not at all. Because if this is going to be the new game, then we're far beyond scorched earth. The justice system will just be the battlegrounds every single day to take down political opponents or anybody, whether it's locally, on a state level, on a federal level, who the opposition sees as a threat. We're coming after you. We've tolerated this for so long. It gets to this point. Alvin Bragg, as you pointed out earlier, Gary, this is a guy who got elected. People chose to put him there. The judge and Alvin Bragg should be looking for jobs. They shouldn't be in courtrooms at all unless they're answering the criminal charges against them. Because this is a crime over and over again. This is Bragg lying to the jury, presenting something false to the jury.
The judge allowing it.
The judge allowing it. If you take the attorney general from the state of New York, based on her standards, she would have, I don't know how many counts against Alvin Bragg and the judge already. Presenting fraud.
Oh, yeah, based on
Alicia James.
Right, based on the civil definition of the
based
new
on
civil
her
definition
standard
of fraud.
Yeah.
By the way, to the car dealerships out there, you better watch out with your MSRP.
I would stop. I would phrase it as, we believe this car's worth this.
Right, because that's
opinions
fraud.
vary.
in New York, that's fraud.
Yep.
Because you can simply make the case that no car, well, maybe they can find somebody who's an idiot. Oh, I'll pay the full MSRP.
Can I pay more? Yeah. Well, anybody who's in any negotiating official
I say
negotiating
MRSP, MSRP.
MSRP. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And anybody in any position in any negotiation, big or small, I don't know how you conduct business in New York anymore. I really don't.
Yeah.
You combine the New York State Attorney General's case against Trump with Alvin Bragg's case. Man, you got to look at your bookkeeping and wow, well, where did we put that? We put that down as a legal fee. Is that a legal fee? We don't know if that's a legal fee. Could he possibly misconstrue that as something else? Uh-huh.
But it's still not illegal because it's not. There were no campaign funds.
Right. No, the
He did it
law doesn't
himself.
apply.
He simply did legal fees in his own books.
Well, and imagine
he
that.
wasn't attempting to avoid taxes.
Right.
It was nothing like that. It's not a crime.
Nope. But imagine the cost now of doing business in New York, having to defend yourself. If you're a business, having to defend yourself over and over again from this kind of ludicrous behavior.
Let's go to Carl in Dallas, Texas, who is an attorney. Carl, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. It's been since 2015 that I talked to you. So with that said, I'll make it brief. It's a question of how do people who believe this is nonsense combat it. And it's going to be up to our leaders. And I'll tell you, I'm not the biggest Mike Johnson fan, but what he did today as Speaker of the House, he laid it out about lawfare. And if I was Trump or his entourage, I would invite 4 United States senators one day to come in, walk in the courtroom, and stare that judge down. And I'm talking about Rubio, Cruz, Tom Cotton, I can't remember the Iowa senator, and they sit there and stare him down, come out, and say what a farce it is. The next day, you come out and DeSantis and Greg Abbott and Noam and another governor comes in. Then you do the House of Representatives, right? You do Jim Jordan. You do the Speaker and 2 other senators. They come in. I mean, and force the press to say, and then the next day, 5 days later, you bring in Abbott, the Missouri, I know the Missouri AG is conservative, and a couple of other AGs, and say, you know what? You keep this up, we're going to do the same darn thing to you.
And what you do, if the judge allows them in the courtroom, I don't know if the judge would allow that if that continued more than one day. But the fact is, you make it a news item where the media is forced to say, why are these Republicans here? And therefore you have to cover their side of it.
Gentlemen, absolutely. That's all I want to say is I hope people are listening.
Thanks.
And you need to tell your representative, because I really believe that's because, we're people say, well, what do you do? This is the way to do it, to get the people who we elect, who we believe in, to go stand, even though he's got a lot of flaws, and we all admit it, to stand behind our guy, because we're now in lawfare, and that's the bottom line. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl. Well, look, this is one thing that Greg Abbott did about the border. While the Biden administration has sent many more border crossers to, the major blue cities repeatedly, Greg Abbott doing it got the media's attention. And so, I would love to see the Republicans, not just one, not just the Speaker. I would love to see Republicans up in arms. They don't even have to be in the courtroom. They need to be talking about this on a regular. They need to be talking about this in the way that it matters, because you and I have pointed out this really isn't about Donald Trump. This is about how the left is reacting. The people come and go. But if we're going to shape our judicial system into this kind of weaponry, then expect that it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better if we don't stop it now. And the GOP needs to be out in force, every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get the media's attention. That's how you... I don't know how there isn't greater outrage about this, but think about it. And there may be, it just may not be prioritized. Even if you're somebody who never voted for Trump and you're never going to vote for Trump, and you look at this and go, man, this is wrong, you may have many other priorities in your life, inflation, the broken border, the concern in the Middle East. There may be other things that you're being pelted with every single day, and you may not see this as a big deal. but it is. This is the changing of the justice system in America, morphing into weaponizing it politically, repeatedly, nonstop, over and over again. And if we don't stop it, it'll never stop.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks, Carl, for your call. Carl, a lawyer from Dallas on the lawfare going on. He mentioned Speaker Johnson yesterday talking about the lawfare being used against Donald Trump. I want to play just a couple minutes of that clip, all right, from yesterday. And they talked about a lot yesterday. You had the House talking about, the delaying the aid to Israel and everything else. And we'll get to that because that's just mind-boggling, the way the president's trying to play both sides of anti-Semitism.
It's unreal.
It's like anti-Semitism's wrong and the Holocaust and everything else. Meanwhile, the behavior that he is involved in, everything that he has done, is absolutely anti-Semitic. And the accusations, the lies against Israel, anti-Semitic.
Yep.
He's trying to play it both ways. But here's Speaker Johnson on lawfare being used against former President Donald Trump.
But one of the things that is also in jeopardy right now is our judicial branch, and it's our system of government itself. And I don't think we can say often enough here how much that has been abused under this administration, and with local prosecutors, state prosecutors, and at the federal level, who are using lawfare. They're using our judicial system to go after political opponents. The most obvious example of that, and I think the most egregious one in history, is what is being done to Donald Trump right now. This is yet another week where cable TV has a split-screen image, right? On one side, turn on any news station, you see the partisan prosecutors and the double-standard DOJ going after President Trump. And on the other side, college campuses being wrecked by anti-Semitic mobs. In Manhattan, in the New York case, I mean, it's play-by-play on all the stations, right? That case should never have been brought. If there's ever been an example of lawfare, everybody can look at that and see. The trial is being orchestrated by Democrat supporters of President Biden who are trying to make a name for themselves. I mean, they're pretty open about that. They used it in their campaign pledges. We've got a Democrat district attorney, a Biden donor judge, whose daughter is a Democratic political consultant and has clients that use the case in their solicitation emails to raise money. And now we've learned there's an assistant DA who was recently a top man at the DOJ and received over $10,000 in payments from the Democratic National Committee. This is all wrong. It doesn't matter what political party you're in. You have to look at this. If you look at this objectively, you know deep down that this is wrong. And think about all this in the context of New York. Assaults in New York are at their highest level ever. Crime is through the roof. The DA has decided to bring an 8-year-old bookkeeping charge that rests on the testimony of a long-proven liar and perjurer. And the judge, who is a well-known Democrat, is pursuing an indefensible gag order on President Trump. Now just think about that. Think about the magnitude of that. He's trying to override President Trump's constitutional right to defend himself against the constant smears of his political opponents in an election year. But not just any election year. the election year that most everyone understands is the most fateful one of our lifetimes. You cannot call yourself a serious judge and threaten a presidential candidate with jail time when he defends his reputation in public in the middle of a campaign.
There you go.
There you have it.
And, it's not a coincidence. This is after, I don't believe it's any coincidences after the judge said, we're going to put you in jail. I think you're going to see Republicans pound on this from now on.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because, number one, when you look at it, we've looked at the polling on this. And the polling is the majority of people view what's happening in lawfare as, what Democrats are doing as political.
Mm-hmm.
They view this as political. And what is it, 50? And this is before the Republicans, if the Republicans start pounding on it, I think it will move even more in their favor. But I think, was it 57-43 last week?
Right.
That's amazing. You think about those numbers.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. So Johnson really laid it out, the lawfare going on. You can't defend the legalities of this. Nobody has tried to. It's interesting that so many of the topics that we bring up these days, and, there used to be, we used to hear from the opposition, didn't we?
Yeah, on a regular basis.
And now when we hear from the opposition, it's just incoherent babble.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any, you can't even follow what they're saying. Who was it that we played yesterday? And we said, can they even complete a sentence? Who was that yesterday? We played an audio cut. And we were saying whether it's Kamala Harris or Biden. So somebody else in the administration. It was like, what are they even saying? You can't even follow what they're saying.
It Kirby?
It wasn't Kirby, no. Maybe it was Karine Jean-Pierre. But it was incoherent. It didn't make any sense. We're like, what? That didn't make any sense. I don't even understand where you're going.
No, somebody we said that sounded like they were doing an impression of Karine Jean-Pierre. Yeah. Sorry, folks. We play so many morons.
we forget. Let me go back. I might have saved it. I probably have it here somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were a little bit shocked. We were like, well, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, right.
Just going back. No, I can't find it. Don't know where.
All right.
But yeah, it was like it does. And to just see that. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, the headline. White House looks to convince Americans of Bidenomics with Kamala Harris tour. The Biden administration is taking its economic message to the road. It won't be Biden. It will be Kamala Harris.
Okay.
With the Economic Opportunity Tour.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Really what they should do is they should just say, look, we need, even though his polling numbers are lower than Kamala Harris's, we need Newsom out there.
Well, I don't know who you send. I was thinking about this over the weekend about, typically this would be the time when you start the whole fake euphoria, right? Of, oh my gosh, things are so great right now. So great. So great. Can't wait for another 4 years of this. I don't know. From the party, I don't know who you put out there. That's not already out there. I don't know who you bring out to campaign for you right now. I really don't. You know, it made news that Governor DeSantis in Florida would actually campaign a little bit for Donald Trump. He would, we don't know to what extent that's going to play out, but, that kind of made the news. That makes sense. Now, tell me who on the left. That's not already out there. Who do you bring in? Who do you bring in for the big game? You're not even going to make any waves with Barack Obama. It seems the left is really over him. I mean, it's just blah, 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 blah. You might as well put Bill Clinton out there.
No, it wasn't Jared Bernstein. It was a woman we played. It was Jared Bernstein, Biden's chief economic advisor. We had played. He clearly has no idea how an economy works at all, and he's the lead economist in the United States advising the president.
Yeah.
He's no idea about debt, no idea about printing money in the Fed. Completely clueless.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it. It was somebody else, and we were just like, well, it doesn't even make sense what they're saying. We couldn't even connect the dots. It's just gobbledygook. It's like the Democrats believe they can just say words that don't connect.
Yeah.
You don't connect the dots on anything. You simply just throw out. And maybe the Democrats believe the reason that Karine Jean-Pierre is still out there is they believe she's effective by not answering any questions. And then when she's asked a question and doesn't answer it, and she's confronted by the media, she goes, well, that's my answer.
That's the answer I can give you. That's my answer. That's the
right.
But it's the only thing I can tell you. It's so blatant, but no, I think that's a strategy.
You see it more and more these days where it seems like more Democrats are just putting sentences together, but nothing's coherent in it. You're like, well, I don't even know what you said.
Right.
And Harris does it. Think about this. Think about the trend. Biden, when you think about it, Biden actually, when he reads a speech, is sometimes more coherent than Karine Jean-Pierre or Kamala Harris. He's wrong and he's lying, but you can actually follow the dots of Biden. I'm not saying he's great at doing it. I'm simply saying he at times can be better than Kamala Harris and Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah.
Because they'll speak and you go, I have no idea what the hell you just said.
Right.
But they want it that way. They don't want to communicate a message to you.
Yeah.
And then but the problem with Biden is Biden wants it both ways. He's an anti-Semite one day and then going after anti-Semitism the next day. He's trying to play it both ways. And it's like, well, where do you stand? I stand both ways. I'm an anti-Semite and I'm not. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't have it both ways.
Well, no, it's the AI answer. It's the modern day answer of, well, anti-Semitism is a complicated. Anti-Semitism is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, that's how insane it's become.
Oh, very quickly. You know where AI is going to get killed? I saw it yesterday. AI talking about who's going to win the Super Bowl and AI making sports predictions. It's going to lose. It's like, oh my God,
I love it.
It's going to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Let's see how well that works.
Yeah. Good luck with that. People betting their entire life savings.
Well, I think they have the Bills winning the Super Bowl. So
do they?
No,
okay.
No,
well, see,
no, they don't. They don't. But I just had to say that.
Not even AI would go that far. Well, no. I mean, when you look at what AI is, and you look at right now what Google searches are doing, and they bring back the AI thing. And by the way, Amazon on reviews, when you search certain words on reviews, they're using AI to basically bring in elements from all the different reviews. Now, they do pair it with numbers, which gives you at least some indication. But AI basically is rounding up all the stuff on the internet and making some kind of meatloaf out of it. I'm not eating that.
Oh, was it Hochul?
Yeah, it may have been.
It was it Hochul that we played yesterday who said that young black men in the Bronx don't know what the word computer
They don't even know what a computer is, yeah.
They don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
They don't even understand the word. And did you see I'm amazed they didn't take it off of X. Did you see the parody that was done?
No.
The black guy on the floor like he's an ape, Neanderthal man, and there's a laptop in the middle of the room.
Wow.
And he's and he's like a Neanderthal man, looking at the computer and hitting it and then opening it up and shutting it and throwing it like he's a Neanderthal, chimpanzee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for Kamala Harris, and it says Kamala Harris's view of black men and computers.
Or Hochul's view. Yeah.
What'd I say?
Kamala Harris.
Okay, Hochul.
Yeah.
So, same difference.
Yeah. Well, it's the insanity, though, that the left, with this virtue signaling, they care more, and then they sit there and espouse their racism over and over again. Trying to create a victim and then saying, well, we need to be the hero and go save these individuals who know nothing. I mean, I don't know. She got elected. She got enough votes. She still has support in her own state as a governor.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Well, we have said, the longest time on identity politics, and we still don't believe that Republicans hit this hard enough. Republicans, there's no reason for Republicans ever to be on the defensive about race.
Mm-hmm.
Democratic Party has institutionalized racism in their party with identity politics. Understand the reason that they believe that you're a racist is because that's how they think.
Mm-hmm.
They judge people by groups and not individuals. They're the racist. They're simply projecting on you what they believe. That's what you saw from Governor Hochul the other day.
Well, as you mentioned yesterday, if Trump had said that,
I mean, it would.
That blacks in poor neighborhoods don't even know the word computer. They don't even know. Can you imagine? It would be all over. And there would be new indictments based on that. I mean, the leftist media is nowhere on it. You really had to look for that comment. Now, it was all over social media.
Yeah.
Where's the leftist media calling out Governor Hochul on that?
And the, like I said, the parody put out there, the black man, young man in the room, it's a black guy doing it. So obviously it's a parody, acting like a Neanderthal man would, and there's this strange computer and, hitting it with the hand and flicking it across the room as if, we have no idea, like we're Neanderthal men. We're basically apes. I mean, it's taking that racial insult and
well, that's exactly what she was saying.
That's what she was saying. Exactly right. And but when I saw it yesterday, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe that, that hasn't been taken off social media.
Yeah, right.
And it's brutal. And stuff like that is what goes viral to, to make the case. But no, Democrats are racist all the time. And they're blunt about it in their identity politics. And we've talked about it for the longest time. And Republicans never need to be on the defensive. I'm amazed that, many still believe that they should be on the defensive or are on the defensive. Understand that what Hochul did yesterday is the projection of her own racism.
Yep.
Understand when the left calls you a racist, it is a projection of how they think. The evidence, identity politics, which is institutionalized in the Democrat Party, which is judging people by groups and not individuals.
And I can only take from their non-coverage of this that the leftist media agrees. They think the same way. They don't see anything wrong with what she said.
Right.
If you don't call her out on it, and you have the power to do that,
and
then you agree with her. You don't think there's anything wrong with what she said.
One of the things you see from conservative blacks is the evidence to them is the expectation of lower standards for blacks that comes from the left.
Right.
We need to dumb down in schools. You know, that's one of the first things you'll see conservatives and conservative blacks bring up. That's the dumbing down. That's more of the evidence of the racism of the left in this country.
Right. No, they over and over again, they believe you're stupid.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up in the top of the hour, we'll get to that story about Kamala Harris going on the Bidenomics tour, the Economic Opportunity Tour. My God, they are.
They're going to put her out there, are they?
That's so doomed, and that's good. It's not going to end well. Also, the Civil War poll that was done. Do Americans believe that we're headed to a civil war in this country? We'll get to that. And also the Boy Scouts now officially gone to the transgender narrative yesterday, taking boys out of Scouts. And it's sad what has happened to them. You know, they had 5 million boys enrolled in Boy Scouts in 1972.
Wow.
It's like 830,000 now.
Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Here we are. We made it to a Wednesday. Woohoo! Oh, yeah. All right. Well, what's going on? I see the Boy Scouts has removed the word boy now.
Yeah. Okay.
They embraced the transgender movement. I believe it was 2018 or 2019. And it's sad because once you embrace that, then you have to embrace all of liberalism.
Yep.
And, you know, they even make the case that, well, we're doing this because we need to be more inclusive. Why? Because when you look at the actual boys, and they're at about 1 million right now, but 170,000 are women. So if you go back to 1972 in this country when the population was roughly 210 million, you had 5 million boys enrolled in Boy Scouts. Now you roughly have 830,000. And the Boy Scouts chose to become a political movement.
Yep.
And that has hurt them. If you embrace, as they have embraced the transgender movement, that means you have to embrace everything that comes along with that, including the lies.
Yeah.
You know, when you look back at, you know, and I was, excuse me, I am, it's not was, you always are, I am an Eagle Scout. And I look at Boy Scouts and what it taught me. You know, you and I talked about this earlier about be prepared. You know, you're always prepared. You think about it. You analyze. You don't panic. Yeah, but if you, even today at my age, if you throw me in the woods, I'll survive.
You and I probably got this. I think I can speak for you on this. What much of what we learned from the Boy Scouts was reinforcement of things that we learned from our fathers.
Yes.
And our fathers are a lot alike. They've never met. They're both critical thinkers, and I know my dad with all 5 of his kids. I'm sure your dad with all of his children. You look to prepare them for the world. Most good parents do that. And one of the things that really was reinforced by my time in the Boy Scouts was be prepared. It's the one thing that sticks with me today. It was with me before the Boy Scouts, but it was really reinforced as a matter of, and then as I think back on it and how that stuck with me as an adult. Am I prepared 100% of the time? No. But it is every effort. I go out of my way sometimes and overthink things in order to prepare for things that would be otherwise mundane. And it's just part of that mindset of doing everything you can to be prepared. And I look at the organization now, and I have friends around the country whose kids are still part of Scouts, and they're still active in it. And okay, that's fine. It's just that I would need to know what the mission statement is. Because the mission statement of the Boy Scouts is no more. You've handed your organization over. You've surrendered your organization. It's okay to be exclusive. That's okay. It's not against the law, and it's also okay that somebody is offended by it. So what? So you're just going to hand them your organization? Well, I guess so. You're just going to open the doors, here's the keys, see you later? Like Bernie Sanders did with the protesters when he was campaigning in 2016? Here's my microphone and my podium. There you go. You can have it.
You know, I think about it, you know, because we've talked about the liberal creep, which we predicted would come to the Boy Scouts. This is no surprise. But you know, I look at. I went to I actually went to their website, and everything's still the same as when I was in. And I think about it. I became an Eagle Scout December 12th, 1969. Wow. I'm old, Eric. I'm old.
Yeah. Yep.
But the Scout oath, on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And the Scout law, number 1, well, I'll go through all of them: trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Number 1 is trustworthy. Tell the truth and keep promises. People can depend on you. You've just destroyed number 1 when you accept, as they did a few years back, the liberal transgender mindset. I think it was 2018, 2019 that they did. Mm-hmm. At that point, you need to accept everything, which I'm not surprised that that they took boy out of it, and they said because we need to bring more people in. Mm-hmm. Is there excuse? Well, I understand it because of everything that has happened, from the sexual assault lawsuits, the bankruptcy, everything, and the fact of the Boy Scouts accepting liberal creep, which we knew was going to get to this point, because we know it. There isn't. You eventually have to go full where they are. But if you're going to accept the radical transgender movement, and there really is only one movement. There may be people that believe they're transgenders that aren't a part of the movement, but the movement is as radical as you can get. It's insane. But as soon as you have in the Scout law trustworthy to tell the truth and you accept the transgender narrative, you're no longer telling the truth. And it pains me to see it because the Boy Scouts were such a big influence in my life. I was a Boy Scout, then I became a leader. And then, into my 20s, it was off, doing a bunch of stuff. But in my late 20s, when I got into radio, I probably fundraised until maybe, where I saw them going just too far left, probably till 2010. I did tons of fundraisers. Every fundraiser I could do, I would do for the Boy Scouts. That's how much I believed in their mission of what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not angry because I knew this was going to happen. I saw the liberal creep coming for a while. But it is extremely sad, and it does not at all lessen my Boy Scout experience and what I got out of it, because it's all valuable, life lessons. I told you that I mentioned this thing because it was a big thing, the big radio show that I did one time, big in my mind for, where you stand. And it was, and I was working in Buffalo at the time. And it's when I told the story about going to the ATM one time and taking out $40, and I got 60 because a little piece of gum attached the $120 or the $120 bill to the other $20 bill. And this was on a Friday night. Well, I ended up not spending the money, and I went in the next Monday to the bank branch went in and I said, hey, here's what happened. This little piece of gum, I don't know if anybody's doing it or whether it would just happen that a piece of gum got caught in between two $20 bills. I said, but it gave me 60 instead of 20, instead of 40. And here's your 20 back. And they looked at me like I was an alien. Mm-hmm. And I talked about it, and they just said, they said, well, you need to meet. They brought me back. The manager shook my hand, and I said, guys, it's no big deal. Well, it is because of your honesty. I went, it's not mine. I got that from Boy Scouts. I remember going in on the air that day, and remember, I worked at a conservative talk station, and about half the audience called me and said I was an idiot because the bank, if they made the mistake, would not do that to me. And that's when I knew that there was a difference of what, my father, and then reiterated through Boy Scouts, taught me. Doesn't matter what anybody else will do. It matters what you do. And character is defined by how you treat people who can do nothing for you. Those are the things that were just so ingrained, into me. And it's sad. It's sad to see that because I will always proudly say I'm an Eagle Scout. I mean, I don't say it much, but if somebody asks me if you're in Boy Scouts, I'll say, yeah, Eagle Scout. I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of what I learned. I'm proud of the confidence that it gave me. I really appreciate, and when I talk about moral clarity, I say my dad, you can't forget my mom, mm-hmm. My late mom. I mean, there's my nephew would even with Grandma, there was really no gray area. No, there was no gray area with Grandma at all.
I won't speak for my mom until after the court case is over, but I'll just say this. She was there. No, it's something, these things that you learn in the home. And quite often, there is that parallel. In fact, in my experience, I found that most often it is that you have parents that see that, and it's like, okay, let's reinstill those values now through some activities outside the home. And that's exactly what that's what you would get. That's what you would expect. I don't have any concerns or regrets about my time with the Scouts at all. Man, it was great. But it is sad to see organizations, one after the other just fall and just hand their keys over. And, their own troubles aside, by the way, you also have to police your own. And if you're going to be true to your values as an organization, that has to be a constant effort. And so, But it doesn't mean that you also have to hand your keys over to protesters who don't like the fact that you're an exclusive organization.
I have no doubt there are good people still in the Boy Scouts.
Oh, yeah, I'm
especially
sure.
on the local level
Sure.
with Boy Scout leaders.
Oh, yeah.
Without question. None of this is targeted towards them.
No.
But I look at it, once you start embracing the liberal agenda, it goes, we know. It's like dominoes.
Well, because you're not going to appease them.
No.
And they won't even be appeased once they have the keys to your organization.
I'm just looking at the Boy Scout law, and one of the things, we talk about the left, and a lot of different surveys out there about people that are liberal are depressed and angry and everything else. And one of the things is when I'm looking at, here, cheerful, look at the bright side of life, cheerful to do tasks that come your way to try to help others be happy. I saw Seinfeld, because of the movie that's out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know what he said? He said, every single thing in my life, every problem I faced has made me happy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
He said, every single thing that I've done, everything that I feared, it ended up making me happy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you climb the mountains. That's why you attempt to climb the mountains. That's why failure is something that when you're successful is expected. And
Right.
you learn from it, but you're cheerful. You don't let it get you down.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about the depression and the anger that exists in this country and how much of it exists on the left. And that's some of the things that I look at when I look at the Scout law and everything else and all these things that are really, and still today, written. I wanted to go to their website. It's still there, and it's still absolute. But the national leadership has embraced the liberalism, which is not.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, your entire constitution as an organization has to be rewritten. And eventually it will be. I mean, this is not over. This is the evolution of the organization. And once you hand your keys over, then it's going to be, okay, let's get in and redo everything. But the foundation for it is all but gone. And that's unfortunate for an organization that meant so much to so many individuals.
And when I first came here to Dallas, I worked with the Boy Scouts here, and that's the thing, being an Eagle Scout and being that their headquarters is just a couple of miles from us,
Mm-hmm.
where we're broadcasting from right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is just I'm sad.
Yeah.
I guess at times, back a few years ago, I might have been frustrated, a little angry, but now it's just sadness. It's such a great organization. Does not serve as many boys as they used to.
Right.
That you had 5 million back in 72 and less than 1 million today.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it is, I think, part of this, it's one more indicator of, as a society, where we're going. If we don't adhere to basic morals and principles, and you want to give them up and allow others to write what your morals and principles are going to be, then expect more of this. And I do.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
Red Eye Radio, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I think about being in Boy Scouts and the winter campouts we love the most.
Yeah.
Because we would go to the scout camp in hilly areas, and we'd all have our sleds.
Yeah. Right,
oh, my God.
Right.
I'm amazed I'm alive because of that. But I do remember, as we just mentioned about the Boy Scouts going further left, taking boys out of the the word boy out of scouting now, and accepting the liberal radical transgender movement a couple of years ago. Never forget doing a radio show, and again when I was in Buffalo, and some caller was just calling me everything in the book, racist, sexist, whatever it was, and they couldn't argue the point, so that's what they went to. All of a sudden, I go to a call, and it's like, all right, let's go to Frank. And it's like, Gary, this is your scoutmaster. And it was my scoutmaster. I was a Boy Scout, Frank Stabell.
All right.
He goes, I just got too angry listening to these people. They don't know what type of character. And that's the kind of stuff that you love. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, that was, and he passed a few years ago, and it was just so sad because I remember that, there was the sense of community that existed in there. And
you would feel that every time after you became an adult, you feel that when you see the uniforms, when you see kids in your neighborhood or whatever wearing the uniform, it instantly takes it back to, all right, it's still together. It's still going on. There are still people that believe in that sense of community and that constitution of the organization. And it would overwhelm you when you would see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from the experience.
Yeah, it's such a huge part. Scouting was such a huge part. Well, is a huge part of my life, even though I'm not involved in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It is because it stays with you. All the lessons you learn stay with you today.
Yeah, right. I was researching some areas to take the RV in the hill country of Texas. And that's where we would go camping quite often, in the southern portion of the hill country of Texas. And it's just beautiful down there. And you forget how beautiful it is. And it's like, oh my gosh, man, the memories.
Mm-hmm.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. And by the way, I just wanted to say why I'm sad about why the Boy Scouts going in the direction that they are is because they're not going to have nearly the impact. They don't have nearly the impact as they did on young men as they did really when I was a part of it back in the late 60s, early 70s. When they reached a peak of 5 million Boy Scouts. And now, like I said, if you're talking about boys in the Boy Scouts, because there's roughly, I think, 170,000 girls now when they allowed, girls in the Boy Scouts a few years ago, you've got roughly 830,000. I think girls at that time were allowed in Explorer troops, but it wasn't in the regular Boy Scouts. And so when you see the fact that, according to the numbers I was looking at today, that there's been a reduction in the number of, with the population of the country going up another 130 million people, and you have over 80% fewer Boy Scouts, the impact that it had on young men is disappearing. And that's sad because what they taught was all good.
Yeah.
It's what you wish to see. And so that's what makes me sad that, parents now look at it and go, no, I don't think so.
Well, that's it. And, there were also families along the way, where they understood, look, this is going to be meaningful to our child in our situation. I know, based on my experience, there were a couple of families where you had a single parent, and it was, okay, let's do everything that we can, to involve our child and involve my child in something outside the home that's going to teach them things, but also build that sense of community in them that they may not get because things are limited here at home. It's an ever-changing world, and things are going to change. The demand for certain things, or the desire to teach our kids certain things. Well, first of all, with a low birth rate, our desire to have children to begin with. But what the legacy is going to be, what we're going to teach our kids, and what they're going to go on to do, was always going to evolve. But as a society, we had that constant set of moral values. It's very basic. Be honest, be helpful.
Cheerful.
Those are the things.
Volunteer.
You want that out of it. Didn't matter. Doesn't matter which way you come at it. Those are things that are common in our society. Those are things that are always desirable in our society.
You help whoever needs help.
Yeah.
That politics wasn't a part of the Boy Scouts. If somebody needs help, you're there.
Right.
And you're there for a variety of reasons. It's the right thing to do. It's what actually brings you happiness, is being in service to others. And we know with the far left, and if you embrace, like I said, the transgender movement, you embrace everything that comes with the far left.
Right. Yeah.
And we see the tribal nation that we live in today. It's like, I talk about my neighbor who the other day, put out the clip on the Facebook page about Robert De Niro, doing his usual insane rant about Trump. And my neighbor said, in case you haven't heard the story, my neighbor then said, if I want everybody to watch this, and you watch it to the end, and if you're still considering voting for Trump, unfriend me now. I don't want anything to do with you ever. Now, this is a neighbor that has offered help to me, and I've offered help to them in bad storms and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you sit there, and I would still do it.
Mm-hmm.
If they needed help, I'm there. That's ingrained in me. You help your neighbor.
Yeah.
Now, Mom was the one that really instilled that in me when it would snow heavily in Buffalo, and my brother and I would proudly shovel the driveway. We were younger, so I don't think Dad let us use the snowblower at that time. So if Dad wasn't there, we shoveled it. And then Mom, we did it, and we're expecting an allowance or something, or a payment for it. She goes, okay, now go next door and do their lawn. They're elderly. What are you talking about? Well, no, we don't want to. No, you do it. All right, what do we charge them? You charge them nothing.
Right, yeah.
And during the bad storms when we were young, we had elderly neighbors on both sides. We did their driveway. And my mother said, you're young, you're healthy. This is what you do. You serve your neighbors. You help your neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And that stayed with me today. If I see somebody in trouble, I'll stop. That comes directly from my parents and then reinforced by Boy Scouts over and over again. I don't know if my neighbor in her rage, knowing when she said unfriend me now, and I said, okay, I'll unfriend you. It's like, I'm not angry, but it's just like, okay, fine. If that's what you want. I've done this long enough not to be angry at every person who has a differing opinion than I do. But her opinion is to shut off everyone. Her opinion is not wanting to even listen to what the other person has to say or even understand the other argument. It's just a complete rejection. That's her choice. That's what she chose to do. If she came back and said, yeah, you're no longer on, I'm sorry I blew up, can we be Facebook friends again? Absolutely. Sure. You're a neighbor. You're a neighbor, and you need any help with anything, I'm there for you. That's what neighbors do. That's what you That's what you do. You know, that's a sense of community that you build. That was instilled through my parents and then reemphasized with Boy Scouts. The fact that Boy Scouts now have over 80% fewer boys in there than 50 years ago is a travesty.
Yeah, it is.
And I know things change, and maybe it would just be half because with the computers and everything else and so many other things apparently to do that no kids are doing.
Well, I mean, there's also the lack of trust in organizations.
The sexual assault
that
stuff.
That goes back on, again, as I said earlier, any organization is responsible for policing their own. Any organization that involves young boys and has the Constitution, the mantra, the mission statement of helping to shape them into good individuals has an especially important duty to do that over and over again, repeatedly, on a daily basis, to make sure that if there are any bad actors, they are brought out, they are exposed, they are brought to justice. All of those things come with having an organization. It is going to happen. There's also the idea, we talked about it recently, of, well, now we have Ring doorbells because we really don't want to go to the door. We want to see who's there and then decide how quiet we have to be. And it's the idea of, back in the day, it was, Maniscalco, the Sebastian Maniscalco, the stand-up comedian who did this is several years ago, who did the bit on that, of, back in the day, you would have a cake already made just in case you got company. Come on in, let's make some coffee. Sit down. It's very funny. It's one of my favorite bits of Sebastian Maniscalco. But now it's the doorbell rings and everybody's in the hall. Get down. Well, they can't see you. I don't care. Get on the floor. Don't make any noise. Then the dog inevitably has to go to the door and make noise like a snitch. But it's kind of that. There's probably some of that. And I think it's unfortunate. It's less of a trust in society in general. And parents are always going to be, I think, good parents are always going to be very overprotective of their children. But the thing about Scouts was that you get involved. My dad was very busy. He had, from what I understand, other children. And from what I understand, I was just one of the priorities in the family. For the longest time, I thought I was the only priority. But he would make time and go on campouts with us. He insisted. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be a part of that. That was all, part of it, again, too, because looking back on it, I have to believe that's kind of the passing of the baton. You want these values and say, okay, see, this is why it's important. These are the other lessons you're learning here and skills you're developing here with these values that we teach in the home now being reinforced, and see, this is why it's important. And when you do that, that's, again, to me, if all is honest and true, then you're going to have such a great outcome. But I think in society, our trust level has changed somewhat. And I don't know to what extent you can, the attrition is in that corner. There's got to be a part of it. But there is no doubt that once you get into the arena of trying to appease your protesters, then your lobby is going to be filled with them, and eventually they're going to run your organization. And so while there may have been that attrition without everything going on today, there's no promise of growth in an organization.
No.
Based on, I mean, if they want to come up with their new constitution and set of values, I don't know. I suspect that's going to happen. I just expect it to happen. That's going to be the next logical step. Then what does it mean? And then what interest would there be and who would be interested? Because once the protesters have conquered it, then they're going to move on.
Or you try to appease both sides, which you're not going to succeed at doing.
Yeah.
We see that with Biden.
Right.
We've talked about that. We saw that with Biden. What was the other thing we mentioned today where we saw it? Oh, with the judge.
Yeah.
In the Trump trial. Just examples of trying to play both sides of it, but your goal is you're basically deceiving one of the sides.
And if you're going to abandon your mission, in the case of an organization, in order to appease, then your new mission is to appease and only to appease, and there is no ending to that. There is no winning to that. You will never fully appease either side. You'll be looking to walk that fence for the rest of time, until the end of time.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, it was just bizarre yesterday in Congress. The Education Secretary was there and in front of Congress. He couldn't answer any questions either. Why can't – this is one thing that is more notable. This is more notable than I've ever seen in any presidential administration, that nobody in the cabinet or nobody in the administration can answer a damn question.
Why can't they own their own policy?
They can't. They cannot own their own policies for some reason. They just and I think that's really telling, because I've never seen it to this extent ever in my life covering politics, where they won't tell you what they believe, yet they go forward with the process, and you ask them about it, and then they just say, well, we can't answer that.
Well, they're promoting it through their actions.
Yeah.
And if I were doing something like that and I were the head of a department, you take that on the road, right?
Yeah.
You go out and you campaign it.
You campaign for what you believe in.
Yeah, this is why we're doing this, and we're the champions, and blah, 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 and we're...
And
they can't even answer one question.
We mentioned it with Biden, with the absolutely anti-Semitic administration.
Yeah.
Anti-Israel, and then out there yesterday promoting how non-anti-Semitic he is, and how they're all for, we need to not let the Holocaust happen again, support Israel, and his behavior is a complete opposite. It's like they won't promote what they truly believe. They promote a lie. Why?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hi. Welcome to a Wednesday. All right, so what was it, last week or the week before, where the president came out with their new rules for Title IX. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you heard was, well, we have not yet decided whether to allow officially boys to play girl sports.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we all know that's the goal of the Democratic Party. They're all behind it. The equity bill, the vote for the equity bill showed that.
Yep.
99.9% of Democrats agree that boys should play against girls. That's insanity. Now, but last week, they notably left that out. The pronouns and everything else is all in there. And so the questions are, well, where are you going with this? Well, we're still involved in the rulemaking process. There's a rulemaking process for it. And so the education secretary before Congress yesterday, and they were asking him, so what do you think? Do you believe this should happen? Well, we're still going through the rulemaking process, and I won't answer that. Why not? Well, what about personally are you for it? Well, we're going through the rulemaking process. I can't answer that. Couldn't answer any questions. I want to play some of this, okay?
All right.
And it was Representative Burgess Owens of Utah asking the questions.
Okay.
Here we go here.
Mr. Secretary, you're going through great lengths to argue that the new Title IX rule will not have an impact on athletics. Setting aside the absence of court decision preventing it, and setting aside the fact that athletics is printed over 30 times in the rule description, I have some very simple questions, straightforward questions. I'm just hoping to get some yes and no's on it. With energy put into Title IX rule changes, it's a 3-year effort. Can you assure us that your rules do not change protection of our girls that have had for over 50 years? Can you assure us that protecting biological girls from competing against genetically stronger, bigger, and faster biological men will not be considered a federal discrimination?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. You are referring to the athletics, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that rule-making process is underway. We haven't...
Okay, really, it's...
We haven't finalized the rules.
Okay, so is it a possibility that this girls competing against boys or refusing to would be considered discrimination?
Is
that a possibility?
I'm here to discuss, what we're doing in education to help children. Proposed rules, whether
it's really a yes or no. I mean, it should be a yes or no. It's a bridge that we all know that you're trying to get across. So is this something that you're looking at doing right now? Possibility?
I don't want to comment on a proposed rule that we haven't finalized yet.
Okay.
We have over 140,000.
Thank you. Let me just continue then. Mr. Secretary, you're in a very unique position to impact the lives, futures, and fortunes of millions of female athletes. Americans on both sides of this debate need to know how deep your commitment is. Would you force your daughter to undress in the bathroom with boys who are also undressing?
I am not going to be commenting on athletics rules that we haven't proposed.
You can't say yes or no on that?
I'd be happy to talk about a Title IX.
If your daughter was reported she felt uncomfortable in a boy's presence in a bathroom or locker room, would that be considered by your administration discrimination or bigotry?
As an educator for over 25 years...
You can't say yes or no to that?
I'd love to respond to your question, sir.
Okay, so yes or no. Would it be considered discrimination? She did not want that to happen.
As an educator for over 25 years, we have had the responsibility...
Okay, all right. I don't have but a few minutes here.
Okay, and we're done right there. He won't answer any questions. We all know that's what they want. And so last week they tried to soft sell it because we have election time coming up.
By the way, any department that goes through a proposed rulemaking, that's all public. You can talk about it there or anywhere else.
Yeah, our goal is to not allow it to happen.
Right.
Or our goal is allow it to happen.
Right.
There's nothing that says you can't talk about what you believe based on or what the administration believes it should be, because a rulemaking process isn't just, okay, let's have a rulemaking process to see where the wind blows. A rulemaking process is the government coming down and saying, here's what we're going to do, and now we need to go through that rulemaking process, correct?
And part of that process is the public comment period. You can talk about the proposed rule and the final rule. In fact, during its status as a proposed rule is when you talk about it. Once it's a final rule, the discussion is over. But that's the approach there.
Right.
That's what I took from it is well, once we finalize this and you won't be able to change it, we'll come back and have a discussion, which of course they won't.
And we know what he believes. We know what the administration believes that he represents, that boys should play against girls in sports. And we say this again, why can't Democrats promote what they believe to the American public in public? Why do they have to, as they did last week with the administration? Well, the pronouns, yes, but their rulemaking process on whether boys, I mean, they were very, very, very gray area, which we know why they did it. They didn't want to be blunt because they believe that men should compete against women in sports, and they don't have the guts to say it because the public's against it. Why don't Democrats, if you're a Democrat, do you ever ask yourself this question, why don't they passionately promote what they believe and let the chips fall where they may? Why do they continue to lie and pretend that they don't have any opinion on it?
In fact, it's during that 30-day comment period that department heads would go out and actually, you campaign, basically. You say, this is our proposal. We think it's good. We got this 30-day comment period. The public can leave comments. You actually have public events where they can actually show up and comment in person. That's happened with different departments in the past. This idea of, well, we can't discuss it like it's an investigation inside the CIA or something.
It's very simple. What I would say, I would simply say, well, number one, I'd say no, but the correct answer is, for Mr. Cardona, is Title IX was passed by Congress. And Title IX separates sports by biological sex. That's where we stand. There doesn't have to be any type of rulemaking whatsoever, because the only reason you go through the rulemaking process on that is to change the law.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason to have a rulemaking process on it unless you're deciding whether you wish to go along with what Congress has explicitly designated in Title IX, that we separate sports by biological sex.
Right.
But the fact is, it's another example. How many have we given today? Another example of Democrats not wanting to promote what they believe to the American people, because they know the American people are against their agenda.
Yep.
That's why they do it. So
yep.
I want to make sure that we played that. I want to get to the next one here with Cardona. And this is, you have Representative, Lisa McClain of Michigan, a Republican, questioning Cardona on student loan forgiveness. All right, here we go.
Mr. Secretary, President Biden's Department of Education has canceled $153 billion in student loan, with plans to cancel $1.4 trillion. The House of Representatives said no. We actually passed legislation on that. The Senate said no. The Fifth Circuit Court said no. And the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, said no. Yet you continue to march on. I would like to know what makes you qualified to ignore the majority of Congress and the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And let me just repeat. Hate has no place in schools. I agree with you. And as the president said, we're not going to condone anti-Semitism on our campuses.
We can agree on that.
For sure. We recognize the higher education system is not accessible, not affordable, and it's broken. And we are working within the law to provide debt relief.
The House of Representatives said no. The Senate said no. The Supreme Court said no. Yet you say yes. How is that possible?
The Higher Education Act gives me authority, and if...
So you alone have the authority? Am I correct on that?
Implementation of...
You're higher than the Congress, the Senate, and the Supreme Court.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay. I didn't think that
I'll give an example. Public service loan forgiveness, bipartisan bill, passed in 2007. Poorly implemented for 4 years. Only 7,000 people benefited from it. 98% of people were denied. We are implementing...
Mr. Cardona, I appreciate that. My question is really simple. What qualifies you to be higher in authority than the Congress, the Senate, and the Supreme Court?
I don't believe I'm higher than those groups.
But your actions would show that.
I'm acting within the law with the Higher Education Act.
I would strongly disagree. The Senate would strongly disagree, and the Supreme Court would strongly disagree. I'm confused on rights versus responsibilities. If you have a right to a loan, don't you have a responsibility to pay it back?
Yes.
Thank you. So you're in agreement with me if you and I make a deal and I say, hey, I want to buy this car, that I should pay that car loan back.
Yes.
You have a right, if I buy a mortgage, that I'm responsible. Not my neighbor, not the person across the street, but I'm the one that took out the loan. I knew the risks, and I have a responsibility. Why is education and loan forgiveness different? Because I should have a house.
Thank you for that question. We have predatory institutions that are preying on students, putting them in debt, and not providing
We have
them
slippery car salesmen that are preying on people too, so should we forgive their loans?
We have...
I'm asking a question.
I'd
Yeah,
like
I mean,
to
we have
answer-
bad actors
Yeah, we do.
across the board. So if you're a bad actor, under that concept, I should forgive your loan. So if a slippery car salesman sells me a car and, gosh, I just got in a little bit over my head, we should forgive that. I mean, using that same principle.
We have a responsibility.
I'm
to make-
asking a question. So are we going to car loans next? If you're a shady character and sell me a bad car loan, the government, well, not the government, you, because you have more authority than Congress and the Supreme Court, we should forgive those car loans too.
We have a responsibility.
The answer is, of course not. We wouldn't do that because we have responsibilities in this country. And I love how we talk about free education. It's not free. Are the teachers teaching for free? Are the teachers teaching for free? Really simple. I know we struggled with this last time, but no, they're not teaching for free. Somebody's paying for it, and the people who are paying for it are the American taxpayers.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's pretty simple. We know, we all see it for what it is.
Buying votes, attempting to buy votes.
And they're going to keep doing it until somebody stops them.
Yep.
You know, they've made several moves now, and they'll keep going. We can choose to stop it. Everything right now, the reality of everything is hitting. You know, it's interesting. I told you in our pre-show meeting, welcome to the conversation, CNN. CNN doing a story. America's savings has been depleted. That during the COVID years, that Americans collectively had over $2 trillion in savings. And it's all but gone. We started talking about this at the end of 22. And we said, look, this is what the banks are seeing. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of Chase, because, you know, they see savings accounts and they can see it and say, all right, those are drawing down further and further and further. Inflation is hitting. And then what's the next logical step? And that's what CNN was asking in this article they had yesterday at CNN.com. And analysts saying, well, the next thing you would look for is delinquencies and loan payments and, you know, whatever it might be. Car loans, more credit card debt. Well, we're seeing all that. And there's no one who isn't affected by this yet. The government, this administration decides they're going to go put more debt on the back of Americans over and over again from people who have a higher education,
Higher
who
salaries.
agreed they make more money, and yet we need to pay it. Oh, by the way, make sure you also pitch in for their EV.
Yeah, you're right. Pitch in for their EV, pitch in for their college education. These are the things that you should be paying for people that are more well off than the average person out there. That's the truth. And the other thing is when we talk about the lies, because we've been talking about why do Democrats continue to lie on every issue? It's not loan forgiveness, it's loan transfer. Why can't Democrats tell you the truth about the loan transfer program, transferring the responsibility of paying loans from the person who took it out to people who did not take out the loan and did not sign a contract? And why is that morally a higher ground than having the people that took out the loans pay them back? They can't answer that question.
No.
That's why they have to lie.
Right. They're buying votes.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log, general form and manner, and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up here, the White House is going to send Kamala Harris out on a Bidenomics tour to promote the economic message of what a great economy the people of this country don't recognize.
I can't wait. I can't wait. We're going to have so much audio. There's going to be so much audio to play. Oh, my gosh.
So if you're going to cut back on the time the president's going to speak, then you've got to increase the amount of time that Kamala Harris is going to speak.
Well, it's like squeezing a water balloon. You know, you squeeze one side and then the water just goes to the other side. You don't know which side really is the incompetent side. The water just flows back and forth. Yeah, it's kind of like that. And I would love to be a fly on the wall. Well, what are we going to do? Look, we need to keep him inside, away from cameras as much as possible. I guess we're going to send her. Oh, okay. Okay.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I do want to get back to one more back and forth here yesterday in Congress. The Education Secretary up there talking everything from student loans to Title IX to allowing men to play against women in sports, which, of course, the Democrats are for. We all know that.
Yep.
But this is Representative Mary Miller of Illinois questioning him on the incident that happened of those young girls. What were they, junior high? The other day, remember the shot? I think it was a shot putter.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're addressing here. It's one of it's that incident or another incident that she's addressing here. Let's just go to it from yesterday. Mm-hmm. There we go.
Mr. Secretary, in West Virginia, 5 female students were barred from competing in track and field after refusing to compete against a biological male. In Wisconsin, young girls were forced off their volleyball teams because they felt uncomfortable sharing a locker room with biological males. When the school district was asked about their transgender athlete policy, they said that they crafted it according to your Title IX interpretation. Mr. Secretary, what consequences will female students face if they do not want to share a locker room with a biological male under your Title IX rule?
Thank you for that question. Schools have the responsibility to make sure all students feel safe, including using the bathrooms. And as a lifelong educator, these are decisions that I've had to make as a school principal, as a district leader.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up that you're concerned about the safety of students, but the Title IX rule and the guidance that you are putting out, that you've been putting out for 3 years, is taking away the safety of our daughters in their private spaces, in their locker rooms and showers, and taking away their athletic and educational opportunities. Girls in Wisconsin and West Virginia refused, and they were kicked off their teams.
By the way, he didn't say, I don't know where she's going, he didn't say he agreed with her.
No.
I don't know why she's saying, I'm so glad you did. He didn't say that. But let's continue.
These schools are basing their decisions on your rule. This is happening because of you and Joe Biden. So, Mr. Secretary, in health education class, if a teacher says that men cannot become pregnant, and then a student goes to the Title IX coordinator and says he's uncomfortable that the health teacher insists men can't get pregnant, what should the Title IX coordinator say?
I'd be happy to refer that question to the Office for Civil Rights to provide guidance. And I can tell you that in our Title IX rules that we recently put out, there's more guidance that goes along with it. I'd welcome an opportunity for my team to work with your constituents to make sure that the implementation of Title IX.
But what I want to know is, in biology class, if the health teacher or the health class, if the teacher says that men cannot get pregnant and someone reports that to the Title IX coordinator, what should the Title IX coordinator say? Because you are in charge.
Right, and I'd be very happy to have your constituents get support to make sure that their Title IX coordinators have information. We've provided a plethora of technical assistance, and we're...
Again, why can't anyone in this administration answer a damn question? He is the head, and he's claiming he has no idea what Title IX does.
These are their policies. They clearly have to be proud of their policies. They are pretending to, be the champions for these causes. Why wouldn't you champion that cause right there when you're asked a question?
Right. He can't answer any question.
Why don't you own what you are doing as an administrator?
And by the way, he knows what the answer is. He doesn't want to tell you the answer because he knows the American public won't like the answer.
Right.
So we asked the question again for Democrats. Why won't Democrats tell the truth on any major issue that we are talking about today? And I'm talking about critical race theory, the radical transgender movement, the border, Israel, anti-Semitism, inflation. Why won't they tell the truth? Why won't they answer the questions about what they believe? Let's continue this here.
We're going to continue to support, regardless
what
of
would you say?
Republicans or Democrats.
What would you say? Should that teacher get in trouble?
I don't want to comment on hypotheticals without enough information, but what I will tell you that I respect their different opinions across the country, and we're committed to supporting schools.
So you respect a health teacher or a biology teacher saying that a biological male cannot get pregnant. You are recognizing biological sex, but in athletics, you are wiping out biological sex and going with gender identity.
By the way, he didn't say that. I don't know why she keeps putting words in his mouth in order to make a point. He didn't say that.
Yeah, he didn't admit to anything.
He didn't say that. Come on, Republicans, do better. Let's see where she goes on this.
So I want to know, gender identity is not defined in your rule. Can you give me the official definition of gender identity?
So I think the statement you said was inaccurate. We have not released our Title IX athletics rules. Those
Actually, you have for 3 years. You've been putting out Title IX guidance rules. I brought them with, as you can see. and it does have to do with athletic teams. So moving on, could you please tell me what the official definition of gender identity is?
We're in the rulemaking process for athletics. As you know, that was submitted maybe 9 months after the proposed rule for Title IX. So we're in the process of listening to 140,000 comments,
Well,
which have
the
different
schools are being threatened to have their federal funding pulled because they're afraid of the consequences, the real-world consequences of your Title IX rule and your guidance that you have put out. I do want to know, what would you say to a female athlete who would have won a gold medal, but it was now is getting a silver medal because a biological male took it?
As I said, Congresswoman, our athletics rules have...
Okay, again, can't answer the question. It's not even worth playing anymore because it's just a continuation of not being able to answer any questions for the rules that they've already put out.
Why can't you own what you believe?
Right.
Why can't you own your own policy?
Democrats, we ask you again, why can't the people that you put into elective office defend what they believe?
If you agree with what they're doing, how is it that you're not calling on them to promote it at every turn?
Yeah. Because you know they're full of manure. That's why.
And you know that the majority of Americans don't support this.
Yeah.
You can't win this. If you could win it politically, they'd be begging to testify before Congress.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah. Let us do it because we'll blow you away. We'll defeat your argument.
Yep.
So the question is, why are they doing it?
You go out and you change everything about, well, again, we've been saying this for a while. The Civil Rights Act basically is being dissolved here. Again, if anyone can belong to a protected group, just by saying so, there are no protected groups. So you basically dissolve that. And then I don't know what's next. Come up with your own new civil rights. This is what they're doing now for transgenders. The way they're saying this is it's our interpretation of Title IX.
Right. Which we know what Title IX was
Well,
about.
he even said a minute ago, well, we respect different opinions. Opinions have nothing to do with a rule in place. You're saying people can rule based on they can govern in schools. They can act any of these administrators in schools. They can act based on their opinion.
That's false.
That's false. You issue a rule, and they have to abide by it. And guidance, well, what is the guidance? Well, it's us quietly reaching out to schools and really not doing it through the media to enact our insane policy.
I just, again, what happened to the Democratic Party? What happened to feminists that they embrace misogyny, that they embrace women hatred? Has any Democrat, have you thought about, because we know Democrats listen, why has your party embraced women hatred? And women in the Democratic Party, why do you continue to support a party that is blunt in their hatred and their misogyny towards you?
How is this? I mean, if The View weren't radical, think about it. I mean, what is The View? The View, it's all female panelists. How is this not, if they weren't radical, it would be, the number one running item on every show? If this were going on and they weren't radical, looking at it the way that feminists looked at it back in the day. Well, you can't have that anymore. You've turned that in. You're no longer a feminist.
Well, it was amazing how we've talked about this. Now, we predicted this was going to happen. If you've been a long-time listener to the show, we did this over 10 years ago. We said if this continues to happen, then the feminist movement allows it. The feminist movement will die. And when Gloria Steinem came out a few years ago and other feminists and said, we support the transgender movement, they capitulated to the man. The man now defines what a woman is.
Yep.
And a woman is whatever a man defines it for in sports.
Yep.
Because it's not happening the other way around. it's not women trying to play men's sports.
Right.
Because that's actually allowed if you can do it. If you have the physical strength to do it, like on the golf tour, if you can do it, you can play. But why, and this is a question I have for any Democrat out there, and we've asked it before, for years, over a decade now, we've asked the question to zero comment. Never had one person disagree with us or one Democrat attempt to defend it. But why, Democrats, what do you think? Why do you believe your party has gone to such a degree of women hatred and misogyny? Why? And I really wonder if there are disenchanted feminists out there that go, what the hell happened to our organization?
There have to be, yeah.
You and I remember the first year of Trump when they had the Women's March and everybody had the pink hats on, which represented a vagina. And then the second year, there was a big thing and feminists screaming at each other because you're not supposed to wear the pink hat because not all women have vaginas and men can get pregnant and everything else. And it was like, boom!
Yeah.
As we said, wow, look at this liberal circular firing squad here going on. And now feminism is gone in this country because the man said so.
Yep.
Because liberal women decided that whatever the liberal man says goes. We must submit to the man. Why did liberal Democrat women, when did they make that decision? And why aren't more women upset that liberal men are the misogynists and they're the ones that get to define the definition of a woman, which is whatever we feel it is today?
Right.
Women, what the hell happened to you?
We've been playing one of them, the education secretary, throughout the show. We've been playing him. He's one of those men who's telling young women, hey, move over.
Move over.
You've had your time.
And I just wonder what the average, because that's the one thing you don't see on social media is the average Democrat talking the issues at all anymore. They don't.
They don't.
I'm not
No, they don't.
You know, and you can't get a straight answer. Democrats won't talk what they actually believe on the issues. And the insanity of it, you really don't have a huge protest. You might in the election. There might be a silent minority that might vote Republican here. But the fact is, they aren't vocal about it at all, and it's never been easier to be vocal on social media. And there's nothing from Democrats on things like this. The misogyny, the women hatred, the bigotry towards women. Nothing.
Nope.
Why? Democrats, why? 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. California bill could remove self-checkout lanes at grocers and certain retailers. A new proposed bill in California would ban grocery stores and certain retailers from offering self-checkout options for customers in an effort to cut down on theft. We'll let them voluntarily do that.
Yeah, if they are losing that kind of money, then they can decide what steps to put in.
Senate Bill 1446 would prohibit a grocery or retail drug establishment from providing a self-service checkout option for customers unless specified conditions are met. Why? Why does the government need to control that?
Right.
Stores can do it on their own. Well, people are stealing. Well, then they can put in their own controls, their own loss prevention.
Right.
Why does the government need to get involved in it?
Right. They don't need to get involved at all.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.